Bigol, can you give us the key takeaways that you remember from the course that you talk about conflict management, please?
A couple of things, mainly like just state the facts. It's not about how you feel, it's not about the feeling at the moment. You just need to set that aside, state the facts, and then try to build on the facts that you guys discussed. Your manager, if you have a conflict with anybody, just state the facts out there and try to build on it.
Okay.
There's a lot more, but just brief.
What about you, Bodo? What is the most, important thing that you got away from this course?
So for me, it's like two things. The first one is basically reaching the gain agreement stage while having a conversation about a conflict without its or like whether it's with a colleague or with a manager or whatever. So you have to, like Vigol said, address the facts and also like gain agreement. So basically, it's like a roadmap of like the conflict resolution. So basically, brainstorm solutions together because the whole idea is to collaborate to reach a common ground.
Okay.
You don't have like to compromise anything. It should be like the benefit of like the pack basically.
Okay.
The second thing is while like in a conflict or even in the process of resolving it, you have not only to listen to the other person, you have to also listen and recognize what you're saying. You have to be a judge also on your own words and your own thoughts because it matters. It would definitely provide another perspective and it would actually reach to a positive like conflict resolution. So you're not only listening to the other party and just ignoring what you have to say for yourself.
Okay.
Because you should be accountable for what you say. It's your responsibility.
For sure.
Yes.
You need to be careful what you say, and you need to be accountable for the words that come out of your mouth. And you need to think about the consequences of those, and also how will it impact this discussion? Will it impact it positively, and the other person will receive it in a good way that will help you guys reach a common ground, or will it make things worse? In other words, or like as they say, putting gas on the fire. So, Bigol, if you will sum up the whole course into multiple points, tell me what will be the summary.
Well, mainly it's about, I think, a four like strategies, or rather say like a graph. Seeing which like part are you setting on? Like for example, there's four strategies I think. Like the first one is you win, I win, which is we came to a common ground, win and also so on. When I lose, you win, I lose, then I win, you lose, so on. So there's multiple different stages depending on how did you address the issue that was going on in the first place or the conflict. So mainly again, try to revisit it if you're feeling like angry, happy, or whatever, any kind of an emotions, you can set it aside. You can revisit it later on, and then try to, as Bodo said, come to a common ground, discuss it.
Okay. So I think both of you spoke about it from the perspective of the two parties who are having the conflict.
Yes.
I want to hear about the moderator part. How you should help them as a moderator for the conflict. So as the manager, let's say you have two people in the team who are having a conflict and you are the moderator. Okay? How would you address that in a healthy manner that ensures that none of the team members feel that he was getting an unfair treatment during this conflict management session, and also making sure that you are helping the two members to reach the common ground? How would you achieve that?
Would you like to go?
Can I share?
Yeah.
Well, I believe it's a simple idea. So you have to ensure that both are listening to each other and both are also reaching away while they are brainstorming solutions. So we said what we are conflicting about. Yes, it's a good thing, but what are we gonna do about it? So we have to make sure that they are listening, you're taking steps in the right direction. So we're basically guiding, not enforcing any of them to take a decision that I want as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, just to like resolve it in a healthy way.
Yeah, would like to add something as well. Because we do need to hear, let's say for example, person A opinion, then person B opinion,
Of course.
and then try to get them in a healthy environment way to move forward. Just because, like it's by the end of the day, it's your team, it's your effort, it's your team that's gonna move forward, hopefully one day, to become their own managers and so on. So this is I think it's a crucial step in every manager's behavior, I think, to have it in a way that I'm not blaming him, I'm not blaming him either. I'm just setting the facts and then the feeling of the
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Right, great job, guys, for summarizing this. This is really important, and that can help you definitely in this point. Whoever did not do the course, please go ahead and do it and watch it, and read as much as possible about conflict management because it's a very important topic, and it's inevitable in any team that you will manage in the future. When you are a leader, you will face a stage which is usually the storming stage, where conflicts will arise and you will need to handle it properly and ensure that the team is having a healthy discussion where they can meet and talk and then have, like a productive outcome that can be helpful for both of them and also for the whole environment of the team.
That is one of the points of like the team strategies that they told us to search.
Yeah.
Is storming.
Definitely.
Storming moments.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you. So let's go to the next part, which is client communication during your first 60 days. Let's talk about the first couple of meetings with your client. As we discussed last time, the first meeting, you need to leave a positive impression, and it needs to be a balanced impression between confident, okay, and approachable. Not having a big ego or being over jokey, okay, and ridiculous, and come across as not someone that they would take serious, okay. So we need to find the perfect balance between the two in the first impression, okay. Whenever you have started to communicate with your client, the first thing you need to establish with your client is guidelines about communication. What's the guidelines about communication? So first of all, you need to set up with your client what is your client's favorite communication method. Okay? Does he prefer, let's say, a chat app, whatever the chat app is, whether it's Teams, Slack, you name it, depending on what's more comfortable for the client, or he doesn't like chatting, he would rather jump on a call, if that's what he prefers, or does he like to have everything by email? Ask your client what's his favorite communication channel, and it might be multiple channels for multiple items. So like you can ask him, what should we send over email, and what should we send on Teams, and what can we discuss on calls? So some client will tell you, okay, if you need a specific approval, it has to be through email. So you will send emails for approval. However, if it's something on the spot and you need to take advice, maybe you can send it to me on chat. If it's something that needs discussion, let's jump on a call. Okay? So you need to understand how your clients like to communicate and what's the best communication channels for each and every item. You need to establish this with your client. Okay? Because in a lot of cases, some people miss this part and they don't know what is the preferred communication channel for the client, and they end up having issues in communication with the client because of it's a very simple thing like that. Like they are sending the client emails and he's not replying, for example, because he doesn't check his email very often, but he's active on his Teams or Slack or whatever. Okay? So if you would have sent it on the right channel where he is most active on, it could have been better. And also, a lot of things that requires discussion should not be an email for some clients. You know, like some clients would like to have everything on an email. If you have it on a call, they might not have the capacity or they don't want to be on a call, so they might rush things out. Okay? So they prefer an email. So it's always important and crucial so you can set up the right communication channels with the client about the different aspects of the business daily interactions. Okay? That's number one. So you need to ask this. Number two, you need to set up your one-to-ones and your weekly business reviews timings with the client according to his availability. So you need to agree how many times will you guys meet in the first 30 days, and then the second 30 days, or like, in other words, the 30 to 60, how many times will you meet? Usually when you're in a new project, like if it's a launching account, for example, you might need to communicate with this client on a daily basis. So you might set up a daily meeting, like an end of day stand-up meeting or an early morning stand-up meeting. Okay? Because you will have a lot of things to discuss and a lot of things to ask about, which is because you are still new to this business. So you don't know the process, you don't know how things are handled and things like that, and issues are arising and your team is reporting it to you and you don't have the answers to it, so you need to ask the client. So usually, and that's what I do if we are launching a new project and it's a new client with a new project or a new program, I set up in the first 30 days a daily call. Okay? And if we don't have any discussion points for this day, we can cancel. But it's good to have this placeholder so you can have a Q&A time on a daily basis with the client if it's a very new launching project. So what other situations you might need to set up daily as well? If you are a change manager for an account that has struggles and it's, let's say, on hypercare or whatever, and you need to also stay in a very close contact to the client in the first 30 days as you come in, because you just joined and you don't have a lot of information and you want to get up to speed very quickly, you might set up something daily as well. However, on a normal basis, what's usually the standard after the 30 days, if things are business as usual, it's usually a weekly meeting for a weekly business review where you guys present the numbers and talk about different aspects of what went well and what needs improvement and what are your action plans that you will do to improve these, so you can have your client weekly visibility about what is happening on ground and what is your actions toward it. However, also it's always healthy to have a one-to-one with your point of contact, a weekly or bi-weekly one-to-one. In these one-to-ones, it's not more about numbers, it's about brainstorming ideas together, you and the POC, because usually the WBR is a platform where it's not only one person who will be attending. It might be you and your manager and he and his manager and a lot of people included in this call. So it's not always a platform where you will have enough chance to brainstorm new ideas or initiatives and things like that, where you can actually discuss it in the one-to-one with the POC. Okay? And POC is point of contact, if someone is not familiar with this technology. So usually this is how you would have things with your client in terms of the frequency of the meetings that you will have with them as business as usual, and also within the first period. Okay? Okay. Some other things that maybe you need to consider is that things on chat sometimes are misunderstood. Okay? So if you ever have, you are chatting with your client and things are getting intense between you and the chat, and you don't understand why it's getting intense, it's better to request a call, because a chat doesn't really reflect your tone and the way you're feeling things and things like that. So sometimes there is misunderstandings that happens because of chats. You might feel that the client is being aggressive or something, or vice versa, he's feeling that you're being aggressive. Well, actually, when you jump on a call, you find that there's no aggressiveness or anything like that. It's just, assumptions, exactly. So someone like you might be assuming that he's aggressive or something, but he's just busy, or vice versa. You're coming very defensive or something like that, but you're just explaining stuff.
That's understood the other way around.
So it's always, like whenever you find that this communication channel is not being healthy at the moment, whether it's a chat, email, whatever, choose another communication channel where it's more warm. Either a call or like a video call or something like that, or on Teams or wherever, where you guys can see each other's expressions and understand what you're trying to say, and things will be much better and easier for both of you. Okay? That's good. Also, you need to understand your client personality within the first 30 days. How can I understand my client personality? You need to understand what type of personality based on his actions, not based on assumptions or horoscope. What's his horoscope? No. It's based on actual facts that you saw and based on the way he's treating you in the chart. You need to understand his personality. Some clients, for example, are highlight people. Don't get me into the weeds, just give me highlights. Tell me what's the headlines. Don't get me into details. Okay? Some clients, they like to get as much details as possible. Okay? So you need to understand what is his personality type and what does he like to know. Does he like to know every single detail about each and every interaction that we have or feedback from prospects? Or he's just, just give me overall what's going right and what's going wrong and how can we fix it? Because if you do something like if the client is just highlights oriented or overall picture oriented or strategy oriented and you're getting him into details, he will lose it. Like he will not you're wasting his time into details that he's not interested to go into. And the other way around. If the client is very details oriented and you're just giving him highlights, he might be thinking that you're hiding stuff from him. Okay? So you need to understand also how he likes to receive information and in which format. Okay? You need also to understand what is expected from you as well. So try to understand the client expectations about your first 30 days. What does success look like for the client? How he will say, what is exactly he's expecting to happen so he can say that this is success. Okay? What's your glide path? How things are going to go in the first 30 days with the project. Try as much as possible not to leave any gray areas with your client so you can have a clear understanding about what is expected from me and what is mattering the most for the client. Because some people, unfortunately, they misinterpret the KPIs that the client provides. Sometimes the client will provide you, let's say, with 6 or 7 KPIs in the document that we will send it to you. However, let's say you decided that I'm going to focus on these KPIs, okay? Because you think that's the most important KPIs. But actually, for the client, it's another 3 KPIs which is the most important for them, and the others are secondary. So without having clear prioritization of which KPIs the client cares the most about, so what comes first, and what comes second, and then third, and so on, you will be actually working in a direction that might not be the same direction the client is looking for. You get where I'm coming from? Because sometimes there is main metrics and there is complementary metrics that supports the main metrics. If you focus on the complementary metrics and you don't focus on the main ones, then even if you succeeded in it, still the client will not see it as a success. Okay? So you need to understand exactly what is the client actually looking for, what success looks like. Okay? And what matters the most for them, what has the highest ROI for them, in other words. Okay? So you can have a clear understanding about it. Alright? Another thing also, if there is a specific reporting that the client wants from you, you need to understand what is the timeline he wants. Does he want it weekly, daily, or how exactly he likes it? And also set up this in your agenda. Okay? And something I will have to always tell you, client comes first. So no matter what other stuff that you have in your plate, the client has to come first. This is a rule number one in any business, in any sales. Client comes first. Alright? Without clients, wouldn't be in business. Just to be on the same page. So client comes first, that's a no-brainer, as they say. So, however, let me put it this way. Don't be too shy to ask about the urgency of requests. What does that mean? So I'm working on specific items. Let's say that he gave me last week, and the deadline for it is today. And I'm working on it already. Then he came up with an ad hoc request today. Just he sent a request, an ad hoc. Hey, I want you to do 1, 2, 3, 4. And he didn't specify how urgent this is. And you already have another task on place. If you switch to this, you will fail the one that has already a deadline on it. Okay? So you need to understand from the client how urgent is this request. And don't be shy to ask. It's better to ask than providing excuses later on. Okay? And sometimes the client will not take the excuse because you didn't ask. So maybe the request that he just requested right now is more urgent than the one he requested last week, and the deadline was today. He can actually push the deadline for this one for the sake of this one. Or vice versa. So don't build assumptions. Ask. Okay, when exactly do you need this one? And if I actually only have the capacity to finish one of the two, which one will you choose? Okay? Understand, it's not wrong to ask. Okay? That's really crucial, guys. And you have to really understand how important this point is, because not asking means that you assumed. Okay? And assumptions, as we discussed, is forbidden. Okay? Assumptions are forbidden in sales usually, except for one assumption, assuming the sale, that you're closing this. Okay? However, any other assumption is not allowed. How about with the client? No assumptions. Just whenever you need an information, ask the client for it. But try to be strategic in the way you are asking your questions, and try to ask it in a nice way, and also in the right platform and the right timing as well, as we discussed earlier. Okay? So that's another point. Another thing that you need also to establish with your client is an open communication about feedback. Okay? Seek feedback from your client. So don't wait until the client comes and tell you his feedback about something. You actually seek the feedback. So let's say you are in the first 30 days or 60 days, after week 1, 2, and so on, ask the client, how do you feel? Can you tell me, are you feeling that we're progressing in the right pacing that you're looking for? Or is things moving slower than your expectations? What's your inputs on this? Seek feedback from the client. Don't wait until the client had enough and he's coming to give a complaint, not a feedback now. Okay? You seek for a frequent feedback from the client. Go ahead.
how can I do it in a proper way that the client doesn't feel that I'm a hesitated person or I have a weak personality person? That I'm always asking, what do you think about my professionalism, my...
No. I'm not asking you to ask him for feedback about you as a person. Okay, we're talking about your team performance feedback and your team learning curve. You can ask about that. Okay. Regarding this point that you are talking about, you don't need to go there unless you feel that there is any disconnect in the communication between you guys. Then you can try to raise this point that you tell the client, hey, I feel that there is a disconnect. Can you tell me what you think is going wrong, or maybe I'm doing something wrong? Don't put it like you ask this question a lot. But I'm talking about feedback about your team and how your team is doing and how are they achieving the client KPIs and so on and so forth. And also how does the client see the progress from his perspective? Is it fast enough? No. And of course, there is always better way to do it that you already set a clear glide path for each and every week since you start. If you guys have this already set. Because believe it or not, some of the clients doesn't have a glide path. You just come and they tell you, hey, I want your team to bring me X amount of money, and that's it. Okay? So how long will that take? And what's for week 1, what's for week 2, what's for week 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and so on? You don't have anything. Okay? So you need to make sure that this is already established with your client. And that there is a very clear glide path. Because of course we're not expecting that the BDRs or the reps or the sales reps are going to come and achieve the target from the first week. So what is expected on the first week? What's expected on the second week and third week and so on. Okay. So a clear glide path should be established with the client, definitely. And that's usually something. If it's not done prior to the project start, you need to do it with the client. Usually in concentrics, that's done. There is no such a thing that you are launching with a client and there is no clear glide path. There is no such a thing. This is something that our solution architects usually take care of. But I'm teaching you even if you're working in another place and you're working with a client that doesn't have a glide path and you didn't think about it. Okay? He just thought about the results he wants. But he didn't put the right timeline and the ramping period and so on. So you need to calculate that with him or ask him to calculate it. If he can't do it, you can calculate it on his behalf based on your experience and so on, and propose it to the client and get his approval. Okay? Sounds good. So we spoke about multiple points. Can someone recap for me the points I said?
Yes. So we're talking about still the client communications in the first 30 days. What should we do just to make sure that we are gonna be on the same page, that we're gonna have multiple agreements, that how are we gonna list our communications, what are his best or the best case contact channels, what should be emailed, what should be communicated in the chat, how should we get feedbacks, how should we deliver information, and also the last thing for the glide path.
Okay. Yeah, and the last thing, or the last point that took us to the glide path, it was seeking feedback from your client and don't be reactive. Always, if you want to succeed with any client, you need to be proactive. And by proactive doesn't mean dismissive. What's the meaning of that? So you're being proactive in your initiatives, but you are still involving the client before execution. Not to make the client feel that he's not part of the decision.
Yes.
Okay? So yes, you need to be proactive in your initiatives and ideas and action plans and things like that, but we need to keep the client looped that, hey, I'm going to do this and this and this and this. Okay? If he has any adjustments that he wants, okay, you have to listen to him. But if he doesn't have any adjustments and you go ahead, that's good. But just because some people misinterpret the two, being proactive and dismissive for the client or his feedback or inputs in the actions that you want. Okay? So don't confuse them. But don't wait the client till he gets to his nose, as they say, and come and complain about something. And usually, the best way also to earn your client trust in the very early on, that you already highlight your weakness points as well. You're highlighting your success, definitely, you have to do this, but also you're highlighting the weakness points that you have, and you are showing the client what is the clear plan that you have to fix this weakness. So you come with the two. So you tell them, hey, what's going well is this, and what needs improvement is this, and you're being very bold about it, and you're taking responsibility about what's not going right, and you're not trying to blame the client or his prices or things like that. You're working to improve what you can control from your side. All the controllable parts, you highlight it, and you show him how are you gonna work on fixing it. That's gonna make the client trust you, because you're not hiding the weaknesses from him. Some people think, yeah, I'll just show the good part only for the client. And what's going messy, I'm not gonna show it to the client. No, show both of them, but let the client know that you are on top of it. And what are your actual actions that you are going to do to fix the issues that's happening. Okay?
Mhm.
That's gonna build a much better trust with the client.